Jamaica is an island country situated in the Caribbean Sea. Spanning in area, it is the third largest island of the Greater Antilles and the Caribbean after Cuba and Hispaniola. Jamaica lies about south of Cuba, and west of Hispaniola, the island containing the countries of Haiti and the Dominican Republic. The British overseas territory of the Cayman Islands lies some to the northwest. Originally inhabited by the indigenous Arawak and Taino peoples, the island came under Spanish rule following the arrival of Christopher Columbus in 1494. Many of the indigenous people were either killed or died of diseases to which they had no immunity, and the Spanish then forcibly transplanted large numbers of African slaves to Jamaica as laborers. With an economy heavily dependent on tourism, it has an average of 4.3 million tourists a year. Politically it is a Commonwealth realm, with Elizabeth II as its queen, meaning the land of wood and water or the land of springs.
History. Prehistory.
Humans have inhabited Jamaica from as early as 4000 to 1000 BC. Little is known of these early peoples. Another group, known as the Redware people after their pottery, arrived circa 600 AD, followed by the Arawak Taino circa 800 AD, who most likely came from South America. They practiced an agrarian and fishing economy, and at their height are thought to have numbered some 60,000 people, grouped into around 200 villages headed by caciques chiefs. Today, only a tiny number of Jamaican natives, known as Yamay, remain. The Jamaican National Heritage Trust is attempting to locate and document any remaining evidence of the Taino.
Spanish rule 1509 to 1655.
Christopher Columbus was the first European to see Jamaica, claiming the island for Spain after landing there in 1494 on his second voyage to the Americas. And St. Anne's Bay was named St. Gloria by Columbus, as the first sighting of the land. He later returned in 1503. However, he was shipwrecked and he and his crew were forced to live on Jamaica for a year whilst waiting to be rescued. 1.5 kilometers west of St. Anne's Bay is the site of the first Spanish settlement on the island, Sevilla, which was established in 1509 by Juan de Esquivel but abandoned around 1524 because it was deemed unhealthy. The capital was moved to Spanish Town, then called Santiago de la Vega, around 1534 at present-day St. Catherine. Meanwhile, the Tainos began dying in large numbers, from both introduced diseases to which they had no immunity, and from enslavement by the Spanish. Many slaves managed to escape, forming autonomous communities in remote and easily defended areas in the interior of Jamaica, mixing with the remaining Taino. These communities became known as Maroons. By the early 17th century it is estimated that no more than 2,500 to 3,000 people lived on Jamaica.
Early British period.
The English began taking an interest in the island and, following a failed attempt to conquer Santo Domingo on Hispaniola, Sir William Penn and General Robert Venables led an invasion of Jamaica in 1655. Battles at Ocho Rios in 1657 and the Rio Nuevo in 1658 resulted in Spanish defeats. In 1660 the Maroon community under the leadership of Juan de Bolas switched sides from the Spanish, and began supporting the English. With their help, the Spanish defeat was secured. When the English captured Jamaica, most Spanish colonists fled, with the exception of Spanish Jews, who chose to remain in the island. Spanish slaveholders freed their slaves before leaving Jamaica. During the centuries of slavery, Jamaican Maroons established free communities in the mountainous interior of Jamaica, where they maintained their freedom and independence for generations, under the leadership of Maroon leaders such as Juan de Siras. Meanwhile, the Spanish made several attempts to recapture the island, prompting the British to support pirates attacking Spanish ships in the Caribbean. As a result, piracy became rampant on Jamaica, with the city of Port Royal becoming notorious for its lawlessness. Spain later recognized English possession of the island with the Treaty of Madrid 1670. As a result, the English authorities sought to rein in the worst excesses of the pirates. By the early 1670s, as the English developed sugar cane plantations worked by large numbers of slaves, black Africans formed a majority of the population. The Irish in Jamaica also formed a large part of the island's early population, making up 2/3 of the white population on the island in the late 17th century, twice that of the English population. They were brought in as indentured laborers and soldiers after the conquest of 1655. The majority of Irish were transported by force as political prisoners of war from Ireland as a result of the ongoing wars of the Three Kingdoms. Migration of large numbers of Irish to the island continued into the 18th century. A limited form of local government was introduced with the creation of the House of Assembly of Jamaica in 1664, however, it represented only a tiny number of rich plantation owners. In 1692, the colony was rocked by an earthquake that resulted in several thousand deaths and the almost complete destruction of Port Royal.
18th to the 19th centuries.
During the 1700s the economy boomed, based largely on sugar and other crops such as coffee, cotton and indigo. All these crops were worked by black slaves, who lived short and often brutal lives with no rights, being the property of a small planter class. A large slave rebellion, known as Tacky's War, broke out in 1760 but was defeated by the British and their Maroon allies. After the second conflict in 1795–96, many Maroons from the Maroon town of Cudjoe's Town Trelawney Town were expelled to Nova Scotia and, later, Sierra Leone. By the beginning of the 19th century, Jamaica's dependence on slave labor and a plantation economy had resulted in black people outnumbering white people by a ratio of almost 20-1. Although the British had outlawed the importation of slaves, some were still smuggled in from Spanish colonies and directly. While planning the abolition of slavery, the British Parliament passed laws to improve conditions for slaves. They banned the use of whips in the field and flogging of women, informed planters that slaves were to be allowed religious instruction, and required a free day during each week when slaves could sell their produce, prohibiting Sunday markets to enable slaves to attend church. The House of Assembly in Jamaica resented and resisted the new laws. Members, with membership then restricted to European Jamaicans, claimed that the slaves were content and objected to Parliament's interference in island affairs. Slave owners feared possible revolts if conditions were lightened. The British abolished the slave trade in 1807, but not the institution itself. In 1831 a huge slave rebellion, known as Baptist War, broke out, led by the Baptist preacher Samuel Sharp. The rebellion resulted in hundreds of deaths, the destruction of many plantations, and resulted in ferocious reprisals by the plantocracy class. As a result of rebellions such as these, as well as the efforts of abolitionists, the British outlawed slavery in its empire in 1834, with full emancipation from chattel slavery declared in 1838. Many South Asian and Chinese descendants continue to reside in Jamaica today. Over the next 20 years, several epidemics of cholera, scarlet fever, and smallpox hit the island, killing almost 60,000 people, about 10 per day. Nevertheless, in 1871 the census recorded a population of 506,154 people, 246,573 of which were males, and 259,581 females. Their races were recorded as 13,101 white, 100,346 colored mixed black and white, and 392,707 black. This period was marked by an economic slump, with many Jamaicans living in poverty. Dissatisfaction with this, and continued racial discrimination and marginalization of the black majority, led to the outbreak of the Morant Bay Rebellion in 1865 led by Paul Bogle, which was put down by Governor John Eyre with such brutality that he was recalled from his position. He was also one of the chief inspirations behind Rastafari, a religion founded in Jamaica in the 1930s that combined Christianity with an Afrocentric theology focused on the figure of Haile Selassie, Emperor of Ethiopia. Despite occasional persecution, Rastafari grew to become an established faith on the island, later spreading abroad. The Great Depression of the 1930s hit Jamaica hard. As part of the British West Indian labour unrest of 1934–39, Jamaica saw numerous strikes, culminating in a strike in 1938 that turned into a full-blown riot. As a result, the British government instituted a commission to look into the causes of the disturbances. Their report recommended political and economic reforms in Britain's Caribbean colonies. A new House of Representatives was established in 1944, elected by universal adult suffrage.
Post-independence era.
Strong economic growth, averaging approximately 6% per annum, marked the first 10 years of independence under conservative JLP governments. These were led by successive Prime Ministers Alexander Bustamante, Donald Sangster, who died of natural causes within 2 months of taking office, and Hugh Shearer. In terms of foreign policy, Jamaica became a member of the non-aligned movement, seeking to retain strong ties with Britain and the United States whilst also developing links with communist states such as Cuba. Manley's government enacted various social reforms, such as a higher minimum wage, land reform, legislation for women's equality, greater housing construction, and an increase in educational provision. However, the economy faltered in this period due to a combination of internal and external factors such as the oil shocks. Having now de-emphasized socialism and adopting a more centrist position, Michael Manley and the Plug and Play were re-elected in 1989. In 2007 the Plug and Play were defeated by the JLP, ending 18 years of Plug and Play rule. Bruce Golding became the new Prime Minister. Golding's tenure 2007 to 2010 was dominated by the effects of the global recession, as well as the fallout from an attempt by Jamaican police and military to arrest drug lord Christopher Coke in 2010, which erupted in violence, resulting in over 70 deaths. As a result of this incident, Golding resigned and was replaced by Andrew Holness in 2011. Holness was defeated in the 2011 Jamaican general election, which saw Portia Miller Simpson return to power, but Holness began the second and then third term after winning the 2016 and 2020 elections. Independence, however widely celebrated in Jamaica, had been questioned in the early 21st century. In 2011, a survey showed that approximately 60% of Jamaicans believed that the country would have been better off had it remained a British colony, with only 17% believing it would have been worse off, citing as problems years of social and fiscal mismanagement in the country.
Government and politics.
Jamaica is a parliamentary democracy and constitutional monarchy. The head of state is the Queen of Jamaica, currently Elizabeth II, represented locally by the Governor-General of Jamaica. Jamaica's current constitution was drafted in 1962 by a bipartisan joint committee of the Jamaican legislature. It came into force with the Jamaica Independence Act, 1962 of the United Kingdom Parliament, which gave Jamaica independence. Any new city municipality must have a population of at least 50,000, and a town municipality a number set by the Minister of Local Government. The West India Regiment was used extensively by the British Empire in policing the empire from 1795 to 1926. Other units in the JDF heritage include the early colonial Jamaica Militia, the Kingston Infantry Volunteers of World War I, and reorganized into the Jamaican Infantry Volunteers in World War II. The West Indies Regiment was reformed in 1958 as part of the West Indies Federation. After dissolution of the Federation, the JDF was established. The Jamaica Defence Force JDF comprises an infantry regiment and reserve corps, an air wing, a Coast Guard fleet and a supporting engineering unit. The infantry regiment contains the 1st, 2nd and 3rd National Reserve battalions. The JDF Air Wing is divided into 3 flight units, a training unit, a support unit and the JDF Air Wing National Reserve. The Coast Guard is divided between seagoing crews and support crews who conduct maritime safety and maritime law enforcement as well as defense-related operations. The role of the support battalion is to provide support to boost numbers in combat and issue competency training in order to allow for the readiness of the force. The 1st Engineer Regiment was formed due to an increased demand for military engineers, and their role is to provide engineering services whenever and wherever they are needed. The headquarters JDF contains the JDF Commander, Command Staff as well as Intelligence, Judge Advocate Office, Administrative and Procurement sections. In recent years the JDF has been called on to assist the nation's police, the Jamaica Constabulary Force JCF, in fighting drug smuggling and a rising crime rate which includes one of the highest murder rates in the world. JDF units actively conduct armed patrols with the JCF in high crime areas and known gang neighborhoods. There has been vocal controversy as well as support of this JDF role. In early 2005, an opposition leader, Edward Siaga, called for the merger of the JDF and JCF. This has not garnered support in either organization nor among the majority of citizens. In 2017, Jamaica signed the UN Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons.
Geography and environment.
Jamaica is the 3rd largest island in the Caribbean. It lies between latitudes 17 degrees and 19 degrees north, and longitudes 76 degrees and 79 degrees west. Mountains dominate the interior. The Don Figuerero, Santa Cruz, and Mayday Mountains in the west. The Dry Harbor Mountains in the center, and the John Crow Mountains and Blue Mountains in the east, the latter containing Blue Mountain Peak, Jamaica's tallest mountain at 2,256 meters, which contributed to the city being designated as the capital in 1872. Other towns of note include Portmore, Spanish Town, Savannah La Mar, Mandeville, and the resort towns of Ocho Rios, Port Antonio, and Negril. Tourist attractions include Dunn's River Falls in Street, Anne's Falls in Street, Elizabeth, the Blue Lagoon in Portland, believed to be the crater of an extinct volcano, and Port Royal, site of a major earthquake in 1692 that helped form the island's Palisadoes Tombolo. Among the variety of terrestrial, aquatic and marine ecosystems are dry and wet limestone forests, rainforest, riparian woodland, wetlands, caves, rivers, seagrass beds and coral reefs. The authorities have recognized the tremendous significance and potential of the environment and have designated some of the more fertile areas as protected. Among the island's protected areas are the Cockpit Country, Hellshire Hills, and Litchfield Forest Reserves. In 1992, Jamaica's first marine park, covering nearly, was established in Montego Bay. Portland Bight Protected Area was designated in 1999. The following year Blue and John Crow Mountains National Park was created, covering roughly of a wilderness area which supports thousands of tree and fern species and rare animals. There are several small islands off Jamaica's coast, most notably those in Portland Bight such as Pigeon Island, Salt Island, Dolphin Island, Long Island, Great Goat Island, and Little Goat Island, and also Lime Cay located further east. Much further out, some 50 to 80 kilometers off the south coast, lie the very small Morant Cays and Pedro Cays.
Climate.
The climate in Jamaica is tropical, with hot and humid weather, although higher inland regions are more temperate. Jamaica lies in the hurricane belt of the Atlantic Ocean, and because of this, the island sometimes suffers significant storm damage. Areas of heavy rainfall also contain stands of bamboo, ferns, ebony, mahogany, and rosewood. Cactus and similar dry area plants are found along the south and southwest coastal area. Parts of the west and southwest consist of large grasslands, with scattered stands of trees. Jamaican's fauna, typical of the Caribbean, includes highly diversified wildlife with many endemic species. As with other oceanic islands, land mammals are mostly several species of bats, of which at least 3 endemic species are found only in Cockpit Country, one of which is at risk. Other species of bat include the fig-eating and hairy-tailed bats. The only non-bat native mammal extant in Jamaica is the Jamaican husia, locally known as the coney. The largest of which is the American crocodile. However, it is only present within the Black River and a few other areas. Lizards such as anoles, iguanas and snakes such as racers and the Jamaican boa, the largest snake on the island, are common in areas such as the Cockpit country. None of Jamaica's 8 species of native snakes is venomous. Jamaica is home to about 289 species of birds, of which 27 are endemic, including the endangered black-billed parrots and the Jamaican blackbird, both of which are only found in Cockpit country. It is also the indigenous home to 4 species of hummingbirds, 3 of which are found nowhere else in the world: the black-billed streamer-tail, the Jamaican mango, the vervain hummingbird, and red-billed streamer-tails. The red-billed streamer-tail, known locally as the doctor bird, is Jamaica's national symbol. One species of freshwater turtle is native to Jamaica, the Jamaican slider. It is found only on Jamaica and on a few islands in the Bahamas. In addition, many types of frogs are common on the island, especially tree frogs. Beautiful and exotic birds, such as that, can be found among a large number of others. Jamaican waters contain considerable resources of fresh and saltwater fish. The chief varieties of saltwater fish are kingfish, jack, mackerel, whiting, bonito, and tuna. Fish that occasionally enter freshwater and estuarine environments include snook, jewfish, mangrove snapper, and mullets. Fish that spend the majority of their lives in Jamaica's freshwaters include many species of live bearers, killifish, freshwater gobies, the mountain mullet, and the American eel. Tilapia have been introduced from Africa for aquaculture, and are very common. Also visible in the waters surrounding Jamaica are dolphins, parrotfish, and the endangered manatee. Insects and other invertebrates are abundant, including the world's largest centipede, the Amazonian giant centipede. Jamaica is the home to about 150 species of butterflies and moths, including 35 indigenous species and 22 subspecies. It is also the native home to the Jamaican swallowtail, the Western Hemisphere's largest butterfly.
Aquatic life.
Coral reef ecosystems are important because they provide people with a source of livelihood, food, recreation, and medicinal compounds, and protect the land on which they live. Jamaica relies on the ocean and its ecosystem for its development. However, the marine life in Jamaica is also being affected. There could be many factors that contribute to marine life not having the best health. Jamaica's geological origin, topographical features and seasonal high rainfall make it susceptible to a range of natural hazards that can affect the coastal and oceanic environments. These include storm surge, slope failures, landslides, earthquakes, floods and hurricanes. Coral reefs in the Negril Marine Park NMP, Jamaica, have been increasingly impacted by nutrient pollution and macroalgal blooms following decades of intensive development as a major tourist destination. Another one of those factors could include tourist, being that Jamaica is a very touristy place. The island draws people to travel here from all over the world. The Jamaican tourism industry accounts for 32% of total employment and 36% of the country's GDP, and is largely based on the sun, sea and sand, the last two of these attributes being dependent on healthy coral reef ecosystems. A developing country on an island will get the majority of their revenue from their ocean.
Pollution.
Pollution comes from runoff, sewage systems, and garbage. However, this typically all ends up in the ocean after there is rain or floods. Everything that ends up in the water changes the quality and balance of the ocean. Poor coastal water quality has adversely affected fisheries, tourism and mariculture, as well as undermining biological sustainability of the living resources of ocean and coastal habitats.
Environmental policies.
There are policies that are being put into place to help preserve the ocean and the life below water. The goal of Integrated Coastal Zone Management (ICZM) is to improve the quality of life of human communities who depend on coastal resources while maintaining the biological diversity and productivity of coastal ecosystems. Other major ancestral areas are Europe, South Asia, and East Asia. It is uncommon for Jamaicans to identify themselves by race, as is prominent in other countries such as the United States, with most Jamaicans seeing Jamaican nationality as an identity in and of itself, identifying as simply being Jamaican regardless of ethnicity. A study found that the average admixture on the island was 78.3% sub-Saharan African, 16.0% European, and 5.7% East Asian. Another study in 2020 showed that Jamaicans of African descent represent 76.3% of the population, followed by 15.1% Afro-European, 3.4% East Indian and Afro-East Indian, 3.2% Caucasian, 1.2% Chinese and 0.8% other. The Jamaican Maroons of Accompong and other settlements are the descendant of African slaves who fled the plantations for the interior where they set up their own autonomous communities. Many Maroons continue to have their own traditions and speak their own language, known locally as Cromanti. Asians form the second largest group and include Indo-Jamaicans and Chinese Jamaicans. Most are descended from indentured workers brought by the British colonial government to fill labour shortages following the abolition of slavery in 1838. Prominent Indian Jamaicans include jockey Sean Bridgemoen, who was the first Jamaican in the Kentucky Derby, NBC Nightly News journalist Lester Holt, and Miss Jamaica World and Miss Universe winner Yendi Phillips. The southwestern parish of Westmoreland is famous for its large population of Indo-Jamaicans. Along with their Indian counterparts, Chinese Jamaicans have also played an integral part in Jamaica's community and history. Prominent descendants of this group include Canadian billionaire investor Michael Lee Chin, supermodels Naomi Campbell and Tyson Beckford, and VP Records founder Vincent Randy Chin. There are about 20,000 Jamaicans who have Lebanese and Syrian ancestry. Most were Christian immigrants who fled the Ottoman occupation of Lebanon in the early 19th century. Eventually their descendants became very successful politicians and businessmen. Notable Jamaicans from this group include former Jamaican Prime Minister Edward Seaga, Jamaican politician and former Miss World Lisa Hanna, Jamaican politicians Edward Zaka and Shaheen Robinson, and hotelier Abraham Elias Issa. In 1835, Charles Ellis, first Baron Seaford, gave 500 acres of his 10,000-acre estate in Westmoreland for the Seaford Town German settlement. Today most of the town's descendants are of full or partial German descent. There is also a significant Portuguese Jamaican population that is predominantly of Sephardic Jewish heritage. The first Jews arrived as explorers from Spain in the 15th century after being forced to convert to Christianity or face death. A small number of them became slave owners and even famous pirates. Judaism eventually became very influential in Jamaica and can be seen today with many Jewish cemeteries around the country. During the Holocaust, Jamaica became a refuge for Jews fleeing persecution in Europe. Famous Jewish descendants include the dancehall artist Sean Paul, former record producer and founder of Island Records Chris Blackwell, and Jacob de Cordova, who was the founder of the Daily Gleaner newspaper. In recent years immigration has increased, coming mainly from China, Haiti, Cuba, Colombia, and Latin America. 20,000 Latin Americans reside in Jamaica. In 2016, the Prime Minister Andrew Holness suggested making Spanish Jamaica's second official language. About 7,000 Americans also reside in Jamaica. Notable American with connection to the island include fashion icon Ralph Lauren, philanthropist Daisy Suarez, Blackstone's Schwarzman family, the family of the late Lieutenant Governor of Delaware John W. Rollins, fashion designer Vanessa Noel, investor Guy Stewart, Edward, and Patricia Falkenberg, and iHeartMedia CEO Bob Pittman, all of whom hold annual charity events to support the island.
Languages.
Jamaica is regarded as a bilingual country, with two major languages in use by the population. The Jamaican education system has only recently begun to offer formal instruction in patois, while retaining JSE as the official language of instruction. Additionally, some Jamaicans use one or more of Jamaican Sign Language JSL, American Sign Language ASL, or the indigenous Jamaican Country Sign Language Cuisine. Both JSL and ASL are rapidly replacing Cuisine for a variety of reasons. There has also been emigration of Jamaicans to other Caribbean countries such as Cuba, Puerto Rico, Guyana, and the Bahamas. It was estimated in 2004 that up to 2.5 million Jamaicans and Jamaican descendants live abroad. Jamaicans in the United Kingdom number an estimated 800,000, making them by far the country's largest African Caribbean group. Large-scale migration from Jamaica to the UK occurred primarily in the 1950s and 1960s when the country was still under British rule. Jamaican communities exist in most large UK cities. Concentrations of expatriate Jamaicans are quite considerable in numerous cities in the United States, including New York City, Buffalo, the Miami metro area, Atlanta, Chicago, Orlando, Tampa, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, Hartford, Providence, and Los Angeles. In Canada, the Jamaican population is centered in Toronto, with smaller communities in cities such as Hamilton, Montreal, Winnipeg, Vancouver, and Ottawa. Jamaican Canadians comprise about 30% of the entire Black Canadian population. A notable though much smaller group of emigrants are Jamaicans in Ethiopia. These are mostly Rastafarians, in whose theological worldview Africa is the Promised Land, or Zion, or more specifically Ethiopia, due to reverence in which former Ethiopian Emperor Haile Selassie is held. Most live in the small town of Shashamane, about 150 miles 240 kilometers south of the capital Addis Ababa.
Crime.
When Jamaica gained independence in 1962, the murder rate was 3.9 per 100,000 inhabitants, one of the lowest in the world. By 2009, the rate was 62 per 100,000 inhabitants, one of the highest in the world. Gang violence became a serious problem, with organized crime being centered around Jamaican posses or yardies. Jamaica has had one of the highest murder rates in the world for many years, according to UN estimates. Some areas of Jamaica, particularly poor areas in Kingston, Montego Bay and elsewhere, experience high levels of crime and violence. However, there were 1,682 reported murders in 2009 and 1,428 in 2010. After 2011, the murder rate continued to fall, following the downward trend in 2010, after a strategic program was launched. In 2012, the Ministry of National Security reported a 30% decrease in murders. Nevertheless, in 2017 murders rose by 22% over the previous year. Many Jamaicans are hostile towards LGBT and intersex people, and mob attacks against gay people have been reported. Numerous high-profile dancehall and rap artists have produced songs featuring explicitly homophobic lyrics. Male homosexuality is illegal and punishable by prison time.
Major cities, religion.
Christianity is the largest religion practiced in Jamaica. Bedouinism is a form of Christianity native to the island, sometimes viewed as a separate faith. The Christian faith gained acceptance as British Christian abolitionists and Baptist missionaries joined educated former slaves in the struggle against slavery. The Rastafari movement has 29,026 adherents, according to the 2011 census, with 25,325 Rastafarian males and 3,701 Rastafarian females. Various faiths and traditional religious practices derived from Africa are practiced on the island, notably Kumina, Convince, Mile, and Obiar. Other religions in Jamaica include Jehovah's Witnesses' 2% population, the Baha'i Faith, which counts perhaps 8,000 adherents and 21 local spiritual assemblies, Mormonism, Buddhism, and Hinduism. The Hindu Dili festival is celebrated yearly among the Indo-Jamaican community. The first Jews in Jamaica trace their roots back to early 15th century Spain and Portugal. Al-Qadish Shalom, also known as the United Congregation of Israelites, is a historic synagogue located in the city of Kingston. Originally built in 1912, It is the official and only Jewish place of worship left on the island. The once abundant Jewish population has voluntarily converted to Christianity over time. Shalom is one of the few synagogues in the world that contains sand-covered floors and is a popular tourist destination. Other small groups include Muslims, who claim 5,000 adherents.
Culture, music.
Though a small nation, Jamaican culture has a strong global presence. The musical genres reggae, ska, mento, rocksteady, dub, and, more recently, dancehall and raw all originated in the island's vibrant, popular urban recording industry. These have themselves gone on to influence numerous other genres, such as punk rock through reggae and ska, dub poetry, new wave, two-tone, reggaeton, jungle, drum and bass, dubstep, grime and American rap music. Some rappers, such as the notorious B.I.G., Busta Rhymes, and Heavy D, are of Jamaican descent. Bob Marley is probably the best-known Jamaican musician. With his band The Wailers he had a string of hits in 1960s, 70s, popularizing reggae internationally and going on to sell millions of records. Many other internationally known artists were born in Jamaica, including Toots Hibbert, Millie Small, Lee Scratch Perry, Gregory Isaacs, Half Pint, Proto, Peter Tosh, Bunny Wailer, Big Youth, Jimmy Cliff, Dennis Brown, Desmond Decker, Bears Hammond, Beanie Man, Shaggy, Grace Jones, Shab Ranks, Supercat, Pugy Banton, Sean Paul, Iween, Bounty Killer and many others. Bands that came from Jamaica include Black Uaru, Third World Band, Inner Circle, Chalice Reggae Band, Culture, Fab Five, and Morgan Heritage.
Literature.
The journalist and author H.G. Dalissa (1878–1944) used his native country as the setting for his many novels. Born in Falmouth, Jamaica, Dalissa worked as a reporter for the Jamaica Times at a young age and in 1920 began publishing the magazine Planter's Punch. The White Witch of Rose Hall is one of his better-known novels. He was named honorary president of the Jamaican Press Association. He worked throughout his professional career to promote the Jamaican sugar industry. Roger May's (1905–1955), a journalist, poet, and playwright, wrote many short stories, plays, and novels, including The Hills Were Joyful Together 1953, Brother Man 1954, and Black Lightning 1955. Ian Fleming (1908–1964), who had a home in Jamaica where he spent considerable time, repeatedly used the island as a setting in his James Bond novels, including Live and Let Die, Dr. No, For Your Eyes Only, The Man with the Golden Gun, and Octopussy and the Living Daylights. In addition, James Bond uses a Jamaica-based cover in Casino Royale. So far, the only James Bond film adaptation to have been set in Jamaica is Dr. No. Filming for the fictional island of San Monique in Live and Let Die took place in Jamaica. Marlon James 1970. Novelist has published 3 novels, John Crow's Devil 2005, The Book of Night Women 2009 and The Brief History of 7 Killings 2014, winner of the 2015 Man Booker Prize.
Film.
Jamaica has a history in the film industry dating from the early 1960s. A look at delinquent youth in Jamaica is presented in the 1970s musical crime film The Harder They Come, starring Jimmy Cliff as a frustrated and psychopathic reggae musician who descends into a murderous crime spree. Other notable Jamaican films include Countrymen, Rockers, Dancehall Queen, One Love, Shotters, Out the Gate, Third World Cop and Kingston Paradise. Jamaica is also often used as a filming location, such as the James Bond film Dr. No 1962, Cocktail 1988 starring Tom Cruise, and the 1993 Disney comedy Cool Runnings, which is loosely based on the true story of Jamaica's first bobsled team trying to make it in the Winter Olympics.
Cuisine.
The island is famous for its Jamaican jerk spice, curries and rice and peas, which is integral to Jamaican cuisine. Jamaica is also home to Red Stripe beer and Jamaican Blue Mountain coffee.
National symbols.
From the Jamaica Information Service national bird, red-billed streamer-tail, also called Dr. Bird, a hummingbird, Trochilus polypus national flower, Lignum vitigicum officinale national tree, Blumaho hibiscus taliparitielatum national fruit, Achiblegius apida national motto, out of many, one people.
Sport.
Sport is an integral part of national life in Jamaica, and the island's athletes tend to perform to a standard well above what might ordinarily be expected of such a small country. Jamaica has produced some of the world's most famous cricketers, including George Headley, Courtney Walsh, and Michael Holding. The country was one of the venues of 2007 Cricket World Cup, and the West Indies cricket team is one of 10 ICC full-member teams that participate in international test cricket. The Jamaica national cricket team competes regionally, and also provides players for the West Indies team. Sabina Park is the only test venue in the island, but the Greenfield Stadium is also used for cricket. Chris Gayle is the most renowned batsman from Jamaica, currently representing the West Indies cricket team. Since independence, Jamaica has consistently produced world-class athletes in track and field. Association football and horse racing are other popular sports in Jamaica. The national football team qualified for the 1998 FIFA World Cup. Horse racing was Jamaica's first sport. It was brought in the 1700s by British immigrants to satisfy their longing for their favorite pastime back at home. During slavery, the Afro-Jamaican slaves were considered the best horse jockeys. Today, horse racing provides jobs for about 20,000 people, including horse breeders, groomers, and trainers. Also, several Jamaicans are known internationally for their success in horse racing, including Richard DePass, who once held the Guinness Book of World Records for the most wins in a day, Canadian Awards winner George Hosang, and American Award winners Charlie Hussey, Andrew Ramjeet, and Barrington Harvey. Also, there are hundreds of Jamaicans who are employed in the United States, Canada, and the United Kingdom as exercise riders and groomers. Race car driving is also a popular sport in Jamaica, with several car racing tracks and racing associations across the country. The Jamaica national bobsled team was once a serious contender in the Winter Olympics, beating many well-established teams. Chess and basketball are widely played in Jamaica and are supported by the Jamaica Chess Federation (JCF) and the Jamaica Basketball Federation (JBF), respectively. Netball is also very popular on the island, with the Jamaica national netball team called the Sunshine Girls consistently ranking in the top 5 in the world. Rugby league has been played in Jamaica since 2006. The Jamaica National Rugby League team is made up of players who play in Jamaica and from UK-based professional and semi-professional clubs, notably in the Super League and Championship. In November 2018, for the first time ever, the Jamaican Rugby League team qualified for the Rugby League World Cup after defeating the USA and Canada. Jamaica will play in the 2021 Rugby League World Cup in England. According to ESPN, the highest-paid Jamaican professional athlete in 2011 was Justin Masterson, starting pitcher for the baseball team Cleveland Indians in the United States.
Education.
The emancipation of the slaves heralded the establishment of an education system for the masses. Prior to emancipation, there were few schools for educating locals, and many sent their children off to England to access quality education. After emancipation, the West Indian Commission granted a sum of money to establish elementary schools, now known as all-age schools. Most of these schools were established by the churches. This was the genesis of the modern Jamaican school system. Presently, the following categories of schools exist: early childhood, basic, infant and privately operated preschool, age cohort, 2 to 5 years, primary, publicly and privately owned being called preparatory schools, ages 3 to 12 years, secondary, publicly and privately owned, ages 10 to 19 years. The high schools in Jamaica may be either single-sex or co-educational institutions, and many schools follow the traditional English grammar school model used throughout the British West Indies. Tertiary, community colleges, teachers' colleges, with the Mico Teachers College, now the Mico University College, being the oldest, founded in 1836. The Shortwood Teachers College, which was once an all-female teacher training institution. Vocational training centers, colleges and universities, publicly and privately owned. There are 5 local universities: the University of the West Indies Mona Campus, the University of Technology, Jamaica, formerly the College of Arts, Science and Technology CAST, the Northern Caribbean University, formerly West Indies College, the University of the Commonwealth Caribbean, formerly the University College of the Caribbean, and the International University of the Caribbean. Additionally, there are many community and teacher training colleges. Education is free from the early childhood to secondary levels. There are also opportunities for those who cannot afford further education in the vocational arena, through the Human Employment and Resource Training National Training Agency Heart Trust NTA program, which is open to all working-age national population, and through an extensive scholarship network for the various universities. Students are taught Spanish in school from the primary level upwards. About 40 to 45% of educated people in Jamaica knows some form of Spanish.
Economy.
Jamaica is a mixed economy with both state enterprises and private sector businesses. Major sectors of the Jamaican economy include agriculture, mining, manufacturing, tourism, petroleum refining, financial and insurance services. In 2019, Jamaica reported its lowest unemployment rate in 50 years. Supported by multilateral financial institutions, Jamaica has, since the early 1980s, sought to implement structural reforms aimed at fostering private sector activity and increasing the role of market forces in resource allocation. Since 1991, the government has followed a program of economic liberalization and stabilization by removing exchange controls, floating the exchange rate, cutting tariffs, stabilizing the Jamaican dollar, reducing inflation and removing restrictions on foreign investment. Emphasis has been placed on maintaining strict fiscal discipline, greater openness to trade and financial flows, market liberalization and reduction in the size of government. During this period, a large share of the economy was returned to private sector ownership through divestment and privatization programs. Jamaica's economy grew strongly after the years of independence. In 1997 and 1998, nominal GDP was approximately a high of about 8% of GDP and then lowered to 4.5% of GDP in 1999 and 2000. The economy in 1997 was marked by low levels of import growth, high levels of private capital inflows and relative stability in the foreign exchange market. Recent economic performance shows the Jamaican economy is recovering. Agricultural production, an important engine of growth, increased to 5% in 2001 compared to the corresponding period in 2000, signaling the first positive growth rate in the sector since January 1997. In 2018, Jamaica reported a 7.9% increase in corn, 6.1% increase in plantains, 10.4% increase in bananas, 2.2% increase in pineapples, 13.3% increase in dasheen, 24.9% increase in coconuts, and a 10.6% increase in whole milk production. Bauxite and alumina production increased 5% from January to December 1998, compared to the corresponding period in 1997. January's bauxite production recorded a 7.1% increase relative to January 1998, and continued expansion of alumina production through 2009 is planned by Alcoa. Jamaica is the 5th largest exporter of bauxite in the world, after Australia, China, Brazil, and Guinea. The country also exports limestone, of which it holds large deposits. The government is currently implementing plans to increase its extraction. A Canadian company, Carub Copper Corp., has found and confirmed the existence of at least 7 significant porphyry systems in Street Catherine. They have estimated that The porphyry distribution found at Bayers Gate is similar to that found in the North Parkes mining district of New South Wales, Australia, which was sold to China in 2013 for $820 million US. Karub noted that Jamaica's geology, is similar to that of Chile, Argentina and the Dominican Republic, all productive mining jurisdictions. Mining on the sites began in 2017. Tourism, which is the largest foreign exchange earner, showed improvement as well. In 1999 the total visitor arrivals was 2 million, an increase of 100,000 from the previous year. Since 2017, Jamaica's tourism has risen exponentially, rising to 4.3 million average tourists per year. Jamaica's largest tourist markets are from North America, South America, and Europe. In 2017, Jamaica recorded a 91.3% increase in stopover visitors from Southern and Western Europe and a 41% increase in stopover arrivals from January to September 2017 over the same period from the previous year, with Germany, Portugal and Spain registering the highest percentage gains. In 2018, Jamaica won several World Travel Awards in Portugal, winning the Chairman's Award for Global Tourism Innovation, Best Tourist Board in the Caribbean, Best Honeymoon Destination, Best Culinary Destination, World's Leading Beach Destination and World's Leading Cruise Destination. 2 months later, the Travel Tourism Awards held in New York City awarded Jamaica's Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett with the inaugural Chairman's Award for Global Tourism Innovation for the development of the Global Tourism Resilience and Crisis Management Center (GTRCM). Bartlett has also won the Pacific Travel Writers Association's Award in Germany for the 2018 Best Tourism Minister of the Year. Petrojam, Jamaica's national and only petroleum refinery, is co-owned by the government of Venezuela. Petrojam operates a 35,000 barrel per day hydro-skimming refinery to produce automotive diesel oil, heavy fuel oil, kerosene, jet fuel, liquid petroleum gas (LPG), asphalt and gasoline. Customers include the power industry, aircraft refuelers, and local marketing companies. On the 20th of February 2019, the Jamaican government voted to retake ownership of Venezuela's 49% share. Jamaica's agricultural exports are sugar, bananas, cocoa, coconut, molasses, oranges, limes, grapefruit, rum, yams, allspice, of which it is the world's largest and most exceptional quality exporter, and Blue Mountain coffee, which is considered a world-renowned gourmet brand. Since the first quarter of 2006, the economy of Jamaica has undergone a period of staunch growth, with inflation for the 2006 calendar year down to 6.0% and unemployment down to 8.9%. The nominal GDP grew by an unprecedented 2.9%. An investment program in island transportation and utility infrastructure and gains in the tourism, mining, and service sectors all contributed this figure. All projections for 2007 show an even higher potential for economic growth, with all estimates over 3.0% and hampered only by urban crime and public policies. In 2006, Jamaica became part of the CARICOM Single Market and Economy (CSME) as one of the pioneering members. The global economic downturn had a significant impact on the Jamaican economy for the years 2007 to 2009, resulting in negative economic growth. The government implemented a new debt management initiative, the Jamaica Debt Exchange (JDX), on the 14th of January 2010. The initiative would see holders of Government of Jamaica GOJ bonds returning the high-interest earning instruments for bonds with lower yields and longer maturities. The offer was taken up by over 95% of local financial institutions and was deemed a success by the government. Owing to the success of the JDX program, the Bruce Golding-led government was successful in entering into a borrowing arrangement with the IMF on the 4th of February 2010 for the amount of $1. 27B. The loan agreement is for a period of 3 years. In April 2014, The governments of Jamaica and China signed the preliminary agreements for the first phase of the Jamaican Logistics Hub (JLH), the initiative that aims to position Kingston as the fourth node in the global logistics chain, joining Rotterdam, Dubai, and Singapore, and serving the Americas. The project, when completed, is expected to provide many jobs for Jamaicans, economic zones for multinational companies, and much-needed economic growth to alleviate the country's heavy debt-to-GDP ratio. Strict adherence to the IMF's refinancing program and preparations for the JLH has favorably affected Jamaica's credit rating and outlook from the three biggest rating agencies. In 2018, both Moody's and Standard & Poor credit ratings upgraded Jamaica's ratings to both stable and positive respectively.
Infrastructure, transport.
The transport infrastructure in Jamaica consists of roadways, railways and air transport, with roadways forming the backbone of the island's internal transport system. The Jamaican government has, since the late 1990s and in cooperation with private investors, embarked on a campaign of infrastructural improvement projects, one of which includes the creation of a system of freeways, the first